Hello, welcome to the Basketball Soapbox. Thank you guys for joining me. I'm your host, Daniel Daly. Thank you for all the support on the channel. Continue to like, comment, and subscribe as always. But let's get into Season 3, Episode 10. Going to be going around the NBA with a couple contract extensions, Ime Udoka's return to the Boston Garden, and looking at the Eastern All-Stars. I'm going to be making some picks there, some predictions, and just giving my evaluation how I pick my All-Stars and try to come to at least a consistent list on this. Got a paper over here with a bunch of notes and numbers on it from stats from players around the league in the Eastern Conference. So we'll be taking a look at that. But first, let's get into around in the NBA. First off, we got Kawhi Leonard signing an extension with the Los Angeles Clippers for $153 million over 3 years there. Kawhi Leonard, obviously a staple in the Los Angeles Clippers organization over the past couple of years. Of course, we know he's a two-time Finals MVP in his previous stops in San Antonio and Toronto. A defensive stalwart, just a robotic machine out there on the basketball court, gets to his spots, very strong in his game, no nonsense, straight to the point in every which way. How Kawhi is on the court is how he's off the court, straight to the point, direct, and effective. His time there in Los Angeles over the past 5 years, he did miss one season. That was, I believe, after the bubble. But he's a two-time All-Star during his time with the Los Angeles Clippers. 3 playoff appearances, unfortunately cut short, especially that Western Conference Finals run there against the Phoenix Suns there, where he wasn't able to participate. And then last year going out early against the Suns, which really sucked because it seemed like they had the Suns' number at that point in time. 25.1 points per game over his career in the Clippers, 6.6 rebounds, 4.5 assists. The thing about Kawhi is just his availability, and it's always at the wrong times, right? Like he's happened 2 times in the playoffs. He was on load management the past couple of years, and this year he's been able to play a lot more than he usually has over the course of the season, playing back-to-backs. He's been out recently with a little knick-knack injury, but overall has been steady this year and has been dominant, especially over this stretch with James Harden, bringing him back over the course of December, and he's just been on a tear so far this season. But out of 328 possible games, he's only played 195 games. That's 59% of the games that he's available, and especially during playoff time, that sucks when he's not available. But when he's available, Kawhi Leonard is obviously one of the top players in the NBA, top 10 for sure. With his effectiveness, his scoring, his defense, and still being able to be that guy when healthy. Looking at the contract for Kawhi Leonard, looking at how flexible that is, especially with the cap and the second apron and all that stuff with the tax numbers and the NBA really hitting teams over the head with the collective bargaining agreement, seeing how he's only going to be making $5 more million each year over the course of this contract. That's a big win for the Los Angeles Clippers, and provides flexibility in how they go forward and potentially re-signing Paul George and retaining James Harden. We'll see if they're able to do that and see what numbers they're going to look at when those guys' contracts come up. Obviously, they've been talking to Paul George throughout before the season and recently. So looking to do that and probably not lock up Paul George around the same numbers as Kawhi Leonard as they look to go into the Intuit Dome, which has already been talked about as hosting the All-Star game, I believe, in 2026. So that's big news for the Los Angeles Clippers, big news for their fan base with the stadium opening up next year, hosting an All-Star game soon to come, and re-signing Kawhi Leonard, hopefully re-signing Paul George, and looking to James Harden in the offseason, depending on how the offseason goes. And Kawhi Leonard taking this type of deal shortens up, 1, that he's getting paid, that he's going to be there, and 2, there's no uncertainty about his future, and they can continue to go on with the rest of the season. Hopefully, we'll see what happens with the Los Angeles Clippers in the playoffs, because we know that has been the issue. First of all, availability with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, and now looking at James Harden in that situation there, seeing if he can produce in the offseason, in the postseason for the Los Angeles Clippers as they keep their title hopes open. Moving on to coaching news, Erik Spoelstra signing an extension with the Miami Heat, the Miami Mafia. what else to say about Erik Spoelstra? I always call him Spurs East. I call him Popovich East, and that whole organization with the Miami Heat, the Eastern Conference Spurs. And Erik Spoelstra has really carved himself out a nice career there out there in Miami. Starting off there in 1997 as a video coordinator, and has been with the Miami Heat organization for 27 years. 27 years. That was just a year after Pat Riley came in and took over down there as head coach down there, leaving the New York Knicks in previous his stop. But Erik Spoelstra has literally been with the Miami Heat probably since 7 years after their inception and expansion into the NBA. Just looking at his career, 726 wins, 507 losses, 58 winning percentage, a two-time NBA champion, of course, with the Heatles, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh when the Big Three came down there to Miami. And people questioned if he was going to be that type of coach to be able to handle those type of personalities. And even at one point, LeBron James kind of going up to Pat Riley and say, hey, why don't you come back to coach after previously stepping down. Looking at it from the standpoint of that for Erik Spoelstra to get through that and be able to coach those guys through that, get to 4 NBA Finals appearances with the Big Three, the Heatles, turning it around, and has just been consistent ever since, and has been able to get the most out of his guys, obviously, to make 2 more Finals appearances those years in the bubble, and just last year against the Denver Nuggets. Falling short, but just getting the most out of guys like Max Strus and Tyler Hero, Caleb Martin, especially, and Gabe Vincent, guys of that, and just being able to wring everything out of those guys and use them precisely how they need to be needed in order to be successful. Obviously, getting contracts. Hassan Whiteside was another guy like that. Gabe Vincent recently just did that. Max Strus just did that as he went to the Cleveland Cavaliers. So a bunch of guys that have gotten paid because of the Miami Heat culture and what they have done there with Alonzo Mourning, Bob McAdoo, Pat Riley, Mickey Harrison, all those guys down there in Miami. And you're looking at the consistency of Spo down there and just able to just continue. As I said, he's Popovich East to me. Just getting the most out of his guys and being consistent. No nonsense, not afraid to challenge guys. And he has the backing of that organization. And I wouldn't be surprised after this 8-year, $120 million contract that he eventually either still coaching or he takes Pat Riley's job as president at some point in the Miami Heat organization. I don't see him leaving. That's just the way they do things there. And congratulations to Spo. He has been one of the best coaches for a long time, consistent. The Miami Heat are like zombies in the Eastern Conference. They're never going to go away. I believe they are 5th right now in the Eastern Conference after making no moves, after not getting Donovan Mitchell. Crazy. Just consistency at its highest in the NBA, and to have NBA championship experience, get to the finals, be a thorn in the Celtics side for a long ass time. Congratulations to Spo, and just the commitment to excellence with that franchise and that organization, and looking at what he's able to do down there. More coaching news. Ime Udoka made his return to the Boston Garden with the Houston Rockets. Had a 51-31 record with the Boston Celtics his first year, being the head coach that Brad Stevens hired as soon as he got the job from Danny Ainge. Ime Udoka, obviously from the Greg Popovich tree, went to New Jersey. He was in Philly as an assistant and came to the Boston Celtics, had Team USA experience with those guys, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart, and Kemba Walker at the time, and came in and got off to a little of a rough start. Everyone was questioning him and have their doubts, of course, as pessimistic as the Boston Celtics fan base is at times, but was able to turn it around, change that defense with Robert Williams, Marcus Smart, and those guys, and really put the calling card on the defensive end side of the ball. And it worked. It worked. We got to the NBA Finals. Unfortunately, falling short to the Golden State Warriors in 6 in 2022. And once we saw that turn around with the team and saw where they were going forward, instantly thought, hey, we're going to get back to the NBA Finals, no question. And unfortunately, Ime Udoka was suspended the 2022-2023 season for conduct detrimental to the team. It started off as nobody knowing what was going on. Allegedly, it came out. Some advances were made towards a coworker, whatever the case may be. and just really soured the last season and really left us with all questions like, this guy just got us to the finals. We're supposed to be on the up and up. Of course, they brought in Joe Mazzulla, who was unknown, faced the same scrutiny as the team struggled at times, got all the way back to the Eastern Conference Finals. People complained all through the Eastern Conference playoffs about the Celtics eventually falling short to the Miami Heat, which really sucked last year, as I just talked about, Erik Spoelstra. And everybody was like, why isn't he made the coach? And even I said that. I was like, I felt like even with all that going on, I still felt like Ime Udoka should have been the head coach. Felt like he should have been suspended for a little bit and then came back, water underneath the bridge, and moved forward. But obviously something was going on internally with the Boston Celtics that they just felt like they needed to move on and distance themselves from Ime Udoka in that situation, and which led to this new course of the Joe Mazzulla era, getting an extension, becoming the head coach during last season, late last season. But that didn't stop Ime Udoka. Ended up sitting out last year and ended up getting a coaching job on April 27th there, 2023, to become the head coach of the Houston Rockets, where he has really taken over that team and has beaten expectations so far to start the season. Currently 19-19. They just dropped the game to the Celtics 145-113 there. And just seeing how good of a coach he is, I knew Houston got to win with that coaching hire, especially after the James Harden, Mike D'Antoni era, Stephen Silas era of uncertainty. They got a guy in there that they know can produce and get results out of young guys and stuff like that. And he seems to be doing that with Alfred Sengun and Jabari Smith Jr. down there, and that team so far down there. So kudos to him for doing that. And I knew he was going to get back on his feet. Seems to fit Houston like a glove, and we'll see what continued success they have. But continuing, he did mention how he had relationships with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and those guys. He was at Marcus Smart's wedding in the offseason. So he's still tied to Boston and still has contact with the guys in Boston. And the Boston media try to pry answers out of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown obviously more willing to speak than Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum played down to it and just said, hey, I was going to see my son down there. When they were asking him, it looked like he was walking towards the Rockets locker room to talk to Ime and stuff like that, as Jason Tatum got ejected from the game tonight. But interesting enough, looking at Jaylen Brown's answer and deciding how he said, you guys, the media made it seem like it was bigger than what it actually was. And that's how everyone felt at the time, especially Boston Celtics fans. They were like, is this really something to that degree where it was demonic and stuff like that? And it was like, it wasn't to that degree that they were making it sound like it was. And saying the players knew. Ime Udoka also said that the players knew what was going on. They were just kind of just playing, denying it and playing low. As the media had a bunch of questions, rightfully so, right? If something was happening like that, you want to handle it privately and stuff like that. But Ime Udoka definitely had an impact on the players here. Definitely had an impact on the culture of Boston, changing it, continuing to change it. And he's looked like he's doing that in Houston. But kudos to him for down there in Houston. And hopefully he gets success down there in Houston, just not against us, as we saw tonight. But yeah, Ime Udoka returned to the Garden, bringing up memories of the past, relationships and stuff like that. And hopefully everyone can continue to move on and continue to have success.